Greetings to you, whatever your time zone. My name is Linda Verrill. Today, my colleague Yuanting, Zhang, and I are going to tell you about the work we do at FDA. Would you like to say hello, Yuanting?
Hi, this is Yuanting.
You'll hear more from Yuanting in just a minute. Yuanting and I are social scientists at the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition. We are going to give you a snippet about the role of consumer research at the FDA and give you some examples of our work.
Hi, this is Yuanting again. To start off, I would like us to do a brief activity doing a task that was included in some of our recent research. I would like you to answer a quiz question that we asked on one of our surveys. Okay, a poll has been opened. You will have 10 seconds to make your selection. So the question is, which kind of fat is higher in calories? 1. Saturated fat. 2. Polyunsaturated fat. 3. Both the same. And 4. Not sure. Press the number 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on which answer you think is correct. Okay, 10 seconds is up. If you pick answer number 3, both the same, you are correct. In our regular tracking survey from 1988 to 2002, we found that only 20% of consumers got this correct.
Thank you, Yuanting. The FDA began doing in-house consumer research with a small staff of social scientists around 1975. Today, the consumer studies staff has grown to a team of 8 social scientists, representing a diverse sampling of social science disciplines, including psychology, sociology, agricultural economics, and public policy. We are all trained in scientific methods and apply these skills to learning about and understanding FDA-related issues from the consumer's perspective. Consumer studies has an important role at JIFSAN. Many of our research projects are used to inform policy. For example, during rulemaking, we often test policy options with consumers as the rules are being developed. Consumer Studies is occasionally asked to provide consumer research results as evidence for ongoing litigation. Sometimes this can be accomplished through a review of the scientific literature, but oftentimes we must design and conduct the research ourselves. Another Consumer Studies role at the center deals with FDA communication efforts. We are often called upon to look at potential changes to food labels. We also test advisories with consumers before they're released to the general public to ensure that the message is clear and the information is understood as FDA intended. And finally, we also collect information from consumers, usually in the form of surveys, experimental studies, or focus groups, in order to help the educators design and test communication campaigns or consumer information web pages. The staff also writes manuscripts and publishes in scholarly journals. These are some of our journal publications from 2011 to 2013. Consumer Studies uses scientific research methods for data collection and analysis. We use focus groups, a qualitative method, to explore topics or issues important to the center and to generate ideas for later use in surveys or experiments. We do national probability surveys to establish prevalence or population estimates of consumers' knowledge, attitudes, and self-reported behavior. And we use experimental designs to test cause-effect relationships. We'll go into a little more detail and give you some examples of all 3 of these methods in the coming slides. Focus groups and other open-ended interview-based methods are a form of qualitative research. As opposed to quantitative research, focus groups do not generate numerical findings. Focus groups are great for finding out how consumers will react to something. Their responses to questions and spontaneous discussions help us assess the whys and the hows of how they think about a topic and how they might react to stimuli such as mock food labels or a short information piece. We use convenience sampling to put together groups of people, usually divided by age or education or relationship to a topic, to have a guided discussion. Because there is no random sampling or random assignment, the findings cannot be statistically generalized to the population. It's difficult to properly analyze focus group results because the data are in the form of words and phrases and sometimes behavior, such as nodding in agreement or eye rolling in contempt. To analyze the data, the researcher must first put aside their own biases and examine the results as objectively as possible. The researcher must also be skilled in reading body language and in understanding group dynamics. Sometimes a charismatic participant will start to influence the rest of the group. It's up to the researcher to be aware of the degree to which this kind of phenomenon is taking place, to communicate with the moderator to try to assuage it, or to give it the appropriate weighting when deriving conclusions from the group discussion.
Hi, this is Yuanting again. Some of the recent focus group projects conducted by consumer studies team include assessing consumers' attitudes towards nutrition information on restaurant menus, looking at a variety of ways to express on the food label that a product is natural, understanding consumers' beliefs about sodium, and looking at consumers' reactions to front-of-package nutrition symbols. One of our team's recent focus group projects was about natural claims on the food label. We held the groups in Washington, D.C., Greenbelt, Maryland, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Two groups were conducted with purchasers of organic food. The groups were divided by gender and education, a common way to segment groups, because oftentimes participants are more comfortable with others from similar educational backgrounds. Consumers were shown examples of ice cream labels with and without natural claims. We started with a general discussion about shopping habits of packaged foods and later showed the participants some mock food labels with different natural-related claims on them. The ice cream label in this slide is an example of one of the labels we used in the study. Each group discussion lasts about an hour and a half, so there's a lot of data to sift through, but there are just a couple of findings. In general, the participants in all locations were familiar with packaged foods bearing natural claims. They expected that such foods would be healthier than those without natural claims. Here's a quote that represents a finding. The person said, "Natural has real ingredients that you can identify. When you see natural, you don't expect it to have a lot of preservatives or synthetic ingredients. Synthetic to me means created in a laboratory, not natural." Another finding from these groups is that the claim natural meant the ingredients in food were created by nature, and food considered natural did not contain preservatives or artificial additives and have identifiable ingredients. They said things like, "My mom always tells me that you don't need food coloring in your food. That is what fruits are for. Color comes naturally. There's no need to add color to food." As we mentioned earlier, consumer studies use a variety of social science methods. And another one of those methods is surveys. Unlike focus groups, survey provides quantitative results, such as percentage of Americans who use the food label. Also, unlike focus groups, surveys use structured questionnaires with defined answer categories. For example, the answers to our question about how often consumers use a food label are always, often, sometimes, and never. We use surveys to measure consumers' knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, and self-reported behaviors. Since survey respondents are randomly drawn, such by telephone numbers or addresses, we can use the results of the surveys to talk about the entire population. The consumer studies team conducts 2 national surveys on a regular, about 3 to 5 year basis. They are the Food Safety Survey and the Health and Diet Survey. Each time we conduct either of these surveys, We talked to about 2,000 to 4,000 Americans across the country. The food safety survey is used to explore consumers' risk perceptions about how safe the food supply is, look at their self-reported food preparation practices, their knowledge of food advisories and food recalls, and their experiences with food allergies. The Health and Diet Survey collects information about how and when consumers use the nutrition facts label, about their knowledge of diet-disease relationships, and about their use of dietary supplements. Detailed information about both surveys, including all the questions and the responses, is posted on the FDA website. Here are some examples from our survey-related research. This graph is from a paper that was just accepted for publication by a journal. The graph compared data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, a survey done by the CDC, also known as NHANES, with the FDA Health and Diet Survey on using the serving size information on the food label. The blue color bars represent males and the yellow color bars represent females. The graph shows that in both surveys, females were more likely to report using the serving information often than males. In the same paper, we also compared the NHANES survey data with the data from another one of our studies, the Nutrition Facts Label Experimental Study, or the NFLES. Respondents were asked what the serving size on the food label means, and they were given 3 possible answers to choose from. The 2 correct answers were combined. As shown here, about half of the participants in both the NHANES and NFLES selected the amount of this food that people should eat, which is the incorrect answer. As seen in this figure, participants who were males were more likely than females to answer correctly, which meant they either answered that serving size was the amount of food that people usually eat, or something that makes it easier to compare foods. In contrast, female participants were more likely than males to believe that serving size indicates an amount of food that people should eat. I'm going to turn back over to Linda, who will tell you more about experimental studies.
Hi, this is Linda again. The third main type of research we do in consumer studies is experimental studies. Like surveys, experimental studies are quantitative, but they show cause and effect relationships. For example, from an experiment, we can determine if a front of package claim influences people to think that the food product is healthier. Experiments work since we randomly assign participants to look at different conditions. In the case of claims, we would test labels that have different claims on them. Some people would see one claim and others would see other claims. Then we can compare responses to questions across the claims to see what kind of effect each claim had. Nowadays, we recruit participants for experimental studies from web-based panels. Some examples of our experimental studies include looking at fortification claims on snack foods, modifications to the nutrition facts label formats, looking at the effects of front-of-package nutrition information, and other topics such as gluten-free or health claims. We are currently studying whether or not adding vitamins to a snack food and making a claim about it on the front of the package makes people think the product is healthier. Here's just one of the scenarios we show people in the fortification experiment, although they don't see the nutrition facts unless they want to look at it. The product on the left is a veggie chip with added vitamins. The product on the right is a potato chip that doesn't have added vitamins. Can you tell which product is better for you? Well, you're a sophisticated audience, so I'm sure you can tell right away. But we're not so sure about what the average consumer would think. Will they even look at the nutrition facts when there's a claim about added vitamins? That's one of our research questions. We're only in phase 1 of this project. We just did the pretest and I'm examining the data to make sure there are no problems before moving forward with the full-scale study. FDA has always been concerned about health and nutrition, so when industry wants to add vitamins or minerals to their food products, we want to make sure it's for a good reason. If there's no public health need, there's no reason to add vitamins and minerals to a product. FDA is concerned that fortified snack foods such as candy, cookies, or chips might lead people to thinking these foods are healthy.
This is Yuanting again. In summary, consumer studies use social science research methods to study issues that are related to the center. Thank you for letting us share some of our research projects with you. If you have any questions after this presentation, you may contact either Linda or me at the email addresses listed here.
Well, thank you so much, Linda and Yuanting, for that lovely presentation. I enjoyed it so much. You did something that was different in that you did a tag team kind of a presentation, which sort of at the end of the day makes me pay attention a little bit more. So thank you so much, and thank you to the audience. It looks like we have no questions for consumer studies at FDA. Of course, they left you their email addresses. If you have questions that are directly related to their presentation, please feel free to send them an email message. And thank you as an audience for attending today. We will see you tomorrow starting at 11:30. So we will sign off at this point and wait until tomorrow. See you. Bye-bye. All right, it looks as if a couple of questions just came in. All right, there's one question. Uh-oh, I think I've messed up. We will answer this one question. So the one question is, do you want to read it?
Okay, the questions is, are consumer research conducted by FDA published somewhere for public access? And the answer is yes. If you, I guess, search our names, or usually we have maybe the corresponding author is from consumer studies. I don't know whether, we have a website. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in the website, we actually posted all our related publication on our FDA website. Mm-hmm. And if you're interested in our the publication from the consumer studies, we can email you the website so you can see all our publication. Otherwise, you can just search our names and it should be there. All kinds of journals. For example, Linda, can you give me examples?
Journals. We publish in Journal of Food Protection. We publish
Academy
in
of Nutrition and Dietetics.
Right, Marketing and Public Policy. For those kinds of articles, you can look on Google Scholar and type our names in. But as you already said, Yuanting, we have a web page on the FDA website that shows very many of our publications.
Okay, the next question is, it is our understanding that consumer research on nutrition label format is ongoing. Do you have any further information on the timing of this research?
Not
Linda?
at this time, no.
No, I don't have any information on that right now. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, stay tuned on that question. We may find out later, but at this point, we can't provide any information there. So at this time, we will close the question and close the session for today. And thank you again for your questions. And thank you, a hearty thank you to all of the speakers who came and gave us wonderful presentations today. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.